Panini versus Fanatics. How will this impact you and me, the hobbyist, the collector, the flipper, the investor, the person who's involved in the hobby, whether you're new or old to the hobby? What does this mean for us? What should we be paying attention to? What's realistically going to happen? In this video, I'm going to lay out some of the facts, some of the data I've collected. Things like Panini did $1 billion in revenue in 2022. Think about that. We're going to talk about what did Fanatics say to the sports athletes that had signed exclusive licenses. What was that conversation about? You ever wonder, like, will that come out if we were to go to court? Why does everybody hate Panini right now? Why is there so much, oh, Panini deserves this. Oh, why don't you get your redemptions in order? Focus on me. I understand they're not perfect. Trust me, they're definitely not perfect. Nobody in the hobby is perfect, but why the hate on them right now? What's really going to happen in a few months, few years? Seriously, what's my predictions? And let me also say this, what do I want to happen versus what actually will happen? I'll talk a little bit about that. And lastly, what should you do? If you watch my video, I'm going to just give you some suggestions, some recommendations on what I think you should be doing if you plan to navigate this interesting time in the hobby. First of all, I'd say this, it is interesting time. You think COVID was interesting? Huh. What's coming ahead of us is going to be very, very interesting. So, I can use a lot of pretty graphics. I'm going to sit here and talk straight. Hobbyist to hobbyist. Few things that came to my attention in the reading the lawsuit, listening to the notes, watching the videos. First, everybody, as you know, just grilling this thing. Printer rumors. Remember the rumors about Fanatics bought the printers and they're stopping Panini from printing and all that stuff. Clearly, that was not a rumor. It's something I'd always kind of wondered, like, why doesn't someone just legitimately call down to the Dallas area and find out from the printing companies? And again, if you look into this, here's a little more information we found out. They are a very high-tech printing company organization. They print very, very complicated stuff. I'm saying stuff because I don't really know exactly, but they're a printing company. But they're a very high niche printing company. This isn't your freaking Kinko's. And apparently they've had some existing contracts with many of the manufacturers in sports cards and probably other collectibles for many years. And Panini has some existing contracts with them. And it looks like Fanatics went and bought that company out or bought an ownership and now has started to be a pain in the ass about executing on the contract and giving them access and so forth. Now, let me just quickly say something. I do think that is an interesting move in the business world. I wonder, and I'm thinking about the law of monopoly. That's definitely something different. I don't think it's illegal. I think it's probably been done a lot of other times where you're basically buying a piece of the supply chain of your main competitor. The holding of the jersey, telling Panini, I'm not going to give you jerseys. I thought that was interesting because my reason for that is I'd say to the judge is, what was Panini's alternative? Are they supposed to go buy illegal jerseys from China? And then you're putting them in a position where they'll be sued for doing that? Like, if you wouldn't sell them at all, like I could see you even, maybe you price gouge them because they're your competitor, but how could you legitimately tell them, no, I'm not going to give you jerseys? That's another fact that came out, or let me say this, a fact of the what's been shared or allegation that's been shared, and they really are allegations because really they're basically both calling each other names. We don't know if any of these things are facts. We're assuming because millions of dollars of lawyers are spent that they're facts, but just think about those things. So, $1 billion in revenue. This caught my attention. No one else has brought this up. That's a big number. And the reason I say that, you think about this, Topps was bought for $500 million. In 2020, 500 million total for the entire company. Typically, you're getting a valuation on your revenue or something like that. I want to say their revenue is around 100, 200 million, 250 million. It wasn't 500 million. They weren't doing $500 million in revenue, right? And I can admit, Panini's always had a bigger stake because they have the two bigger licenses in football and basketball. And let's also say this too, whether you like it or not, okay? If you look at this impartially as a business person, Panini was a much better run company than Topps when it comes to their marketing, their message, their brand. Okay, they did no marketing, but they dominate that market, right? We complain the fact Panini does no marketing, but they freaking dominate the market. Now, let me also say this too before everybody goes, oh, but they had those exclusive licenses. I hear that all the time. Every time I hear that, I think to myself, well, you clearly are new to the hobby, because if you have been around the hobby a little bit longer than just since 2020, you will find out, if you research, that Panini was given the exclusive licenses to the NBA. In other words, Topps and Upper Deck backed away. They did not want to compete in that market. They felt like the NBA was a dying market at the time. All the card companies were struggling, were focusing. It was right after the 2008 financial calamity. So 2009, double draft year, a bunch of things going on. Panini gets exclusive access to the license. 2009. In that short period of time, they have made some amazing brands, done some amazing things for the hobby. They've definitely grown the business. Now, again, I'm not going to give them all credit for them, but they were the best run ship over that time. You cannot look at Upper Deck and tell me Upper Deck was a well-run ship. Upper Deck hasn't done shit in the last 10 years. Upper Deck's been asleep. Upper Deck is like been out at a party with Beckett, and both of them are hungover. And I don't know, they got kidnapped. I don't know. Where's Beckett and Upper Deck? They both have disappeared. Upper Deck's a little more active than Beckett, I won't lie. But you see my point? So Panini, again, I'm not going to sit here and defend all this. I want to do a video on this, but Panini did a lot of phenomenal things. Panini's the one, I'm not going to say they are the ones that brought the game relic into the product. I believe that was still Upper Deck with Exquisite, but Panini definitely made it so exciting that you guys paid a hell of a lot more money for it. Everybody loved to have an RPA with a player or game worn patch. But again, there's never been any clarity of what a game was. It wasn't like it came from the Super Bowl or came from, this game versus the Bears. I will say Panini did do that later on with Opulence NBA game patches. I mean, so Panini's done as much as they can. Again, I don't want to hear people tell me, well, they don't get patches. They don't do this. Guys, if you don't understand the market, you don't understand the supply and demand of a game-worn piece of material versus what's going on today, then I can't help you. But that's a foolish reason to hold a vendetta against a company, somebody I know, because their RPAs don't have game-worn play. I mean, come on. They're still putting the product together, still giving you a guaranteed rookie autograph on a piece of guaranteed cardboard with a piece of beautiful patch. I mean, it just, I don't understand the hate for Panini. The 1 billion is important though, guys. Hiring away, well, that's clearly true. Which means if they were hiring people away, you got to assume some of the FUD slander was legit too. So I got to say, I don't think as many, and I think it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this legal case, as many bad things as Fanatics has done. And Panini has not, they're not like a perfect company. I don't see that going to have any impact because there's legal precedent in this. Now, if you listen to Hobby Hotline, Chris Stalgum talked about this. I want to see back in the early 2000s, there was a case with Reebok. Reebok got exclusive access to the NFL jerseys, and it meant that the company who used to make the hats got kicked out of it. They couldn't make hats anymore. Reebok did all material. And the little company with the hats sued, and the company lost. And the company lost 9-0 to the Supreme Court. And the reason I bring this up is Supreme Court, as Chris mentioned, this wasn't like a Republican, Democrat thing. This is pretty clear cut. Look, they believe that an organization like the NFL has the right to make a choice what they want to do business with, period. That's it. So if the NFL decides that it wants to do business with Fanatics and license this way, we're not going to have any argument against that. They're not going to win that. What they might be able to do, though, like I said, and I'll get this when I get show what will happen, get some money out of the fines, and they might get in a better position to sell their assets, show value in those assets, greater value than people thought was there. Like, for example, did you know there's $1 billion in revenue in football and basketball in 2022? What did Fanatics say to CJ Stroud and Bryce and Victor? This I ask as the collector, because did he say to them, look, we're going to make a great product, we're going to put together some great things for the collectors, we're going to make them really happy? Or did he say, look, I want you guys to sit the whole year out and not sign anything, and I'll pay you money to do that? That there's a big difference between the two, right? And I'm wondering how much that conversation came up. I don't want to talk too long and belabor on that, but I'd love for that to come up in trial. I'd love for someone to subpoena those players and have them come in and explain what happened in the conversation with Ruben. What did he explain to you the strategic plan was? Would you sign exclusive autographs, Victor Wembanyama, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, and the other dude, I can't remember his name. So I said this before. Why are we hating on Panini? I'm not telling you to support Panini. We as collectors should be paying attention to what's going on. We as hobbyists should be paying attention to what's going on. We should look at the lessons of the past. Thank you, Sports Card Anonymous did a great video on unlicensed football with Fleer in the 1970s, I believe, or Fleer and Topps, a great video. We should pay attention to what's going to come in the future. I suspect some exciting, fun things. For example, I think it's a rise of the refractor for the next few years. What I mean by that is refractors, shiny refractors, 101s, 110s, nebulas, I don't know, patches, or whatever they're going to be. Shiny refractors are going to be the big chases for most of the licensed products coming from Panini and their NFL and their NBA. On the other side, though, Topps is going to be doing some sexy stuff with memorabilia and autographs, in my opinion. They dominate that market space, right? They can make some sexy, sexy, sexy patches. Look for them to leverage kind of a wild card model, right? With really gorgeous cards, gorgeous patches, and on card autos for the NFL and the NBA, in my opinion. What will happen? Well, in my opinion, Fanatics will move forward. They're going to run over this. They don't care about the legal court. This could take years to go legal. In the meantime, they're going to continue to move forward with their plan. This is a blip on the radar. They probably took this into their calculations of risk. There's a chance Panini will sue. It will not stop them. There'll be no injunction. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to make them split their licenses. They're not going to go to Panini and go, oh, we're sorry. That ain't going to happen. They will continue forward. Panini will continue forward with their plan as well. I think Panini had to do this, like I said, to put themselves in a better position if they are trying to sell off their licenses to Topps to try to get more money. I think, here's what I think will happen. Here's what I want to happen. Here's what I think will happen. Again, Fanatics moves forward. Panini will compete globally, but they will surrender the U.S. market. And what I mean by that, they're going to give up football, okay? They will probably do something where they give up basketball, but keep some rights to basketball in the Asian market because they have great global distribution there. I'm telling you, I really think that's going to be something you're going to watch for. But I think they're going to give up, for the most part, the U.S. market, stay a global company. I don't think they're going to become part of Fanatics. If they did, that'd be a massive purchase for Fanatics, and it'd show a big global move for them, and it'd be terrible for us as collectors. So we want, in my opinion, Panini, Leaf, Upper Deck, these rogue, outer fringe empire nations to stay afloat. I do think Fanatics will get fined. I do. I think they'll pay a fine. They'll do something. They'll pay money on this, but it's a drop in the bucket based on the bigger picture where they're going to go. Now, here's the most important part. If you pay this much attention, you're still here listening to me right now. What should you do? Well, if you're in the hobby, I'd tell you shouldn't be in the hobby. But you wouldn't have been listening to me this long if that was the case. Here's the deal. You need to be educated. You need to stay aware. You need to stay in your little wolf packs or sheep packs or watchdog packs. Listen, research, read. Look at the products that are coming out. Put pressure on these companies. I'd like to say, we could have a say in the legal courts, but we don't. We have no say. Like I said, this is a pretty straight thing with licensing wise. But this is what the United States is building on. I mentioned in another video, intellectual property is what the U.S. sells. That's what we sell. We need to think about how we can put ourselves in the best situation to enjoy this, right? Have fun. Don't buy the first products. Don't chase the shiny beads. Don't listen to the influencers. Do some research, man. I'm not kidding about that. I'll give you a great example. The Panini autograph of the CJ Stroud and the Bryce Young and the other dude they dropped a few months ago for, I think, $300. That was a really good purchase. And I think if people knew then what they know now, those things would have sold a lot faster, a lot more. Like those could be the only licensed autograph of those players in those jerseys this year. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Victor Wembanyama. It's going to be interesting next year as well. Like, don't think this is going to end after this year's rookie classes, right? It's going to go into next year as well. So we're going to learn a lot this year to position ourselves for next year, right? If you're at the Panini National next year, it's going to be a lot different national. I look for Topps events to have a major VIP party at that event next year. Well, that's it, guys. Those are my thoughts, comments, and opinions on the Panini versus Fanatics. Again, think about what's happening with the collective. How are we going to do? I'll tell you what, I'm excited. I'll be navigating with caution.